When it comes to programming, there are three main pillars you want to consider: volume, frequency, and intensity. In my last video, I covered my philosophy and thoughts on intensity. In this video, I'm going to go over my thoughts on volume. So to start off, I'm going to look at it in a more broad sense of weekly volume per muscle rather than session volume per muscle. So consider it on a weekly level, the amount of volume you're doing for a muscle across the whole week, whatever your total sessions are. So in my last video on intensity, I discussed how we want to set intensity as a base layer, a constant in the program, so that we can adjust other factors in the program as need be. With setting our intensity going to failure or close to failure, as close to failure as possible, and as safe as it is to do so. So on that note, what do we do with our volume? My philosophy on this is that I've come to over time is do as little as possible to make progress. If you're, as you should be, sticking to same exercises in your program for a decent period of time, several months, you're not going to be getting massive neurological gains that are going to help you increase reps or weight on the bar on any given exercise after that initial period. So any progress you make is realistically going to be gaining muscle. In that case, I want for your program to be as little volume as possible for progress to keep going. This allows us to use our other factors, volume in this case, as a lever. Our goal ultimately is progress in this sense, because that progress is ultimately going to mean muscle growth. So in that case, once we're achieving our goal, we do as little as we can, and then we reserve this extra resource, this extra lever that we can pull in terms of volume when need be, only when need be. We're not jumping the gun, because muscle is like physiologically a slow process. You're not going to rush your muscle growth. There's only so much muscle your body can physically build for most people. Even a genetic freak is not going to put on like 50 kilos of muscle in 1 month. They might go faster than the average guy, but you're not going to, they're going to be limited in the amount of muscle you can put on. So realistically, you have to accept that it's going to be a slow process and a long-term process. So once we want to reserve our resources and our options as much as possible, because we know it's going to be a long game. We want to save these for when they're absolutely really needed. Yeah. So in general, we keep our volume as low as possible for progress to be occurring on that muscle group, and we do this for every muscle group. And then we have in our reserve this extra resource that when press in case of fire, press in case of emergency type thing, pull this lever in case of emergency. Obviously it's not an emergency, but in the case that our progress, and as I explained before, basically our growth stops because we're not progressing, then we're like, okay, we've hit a point where something has to change. We keep our intensity, as discussed before, as our base layer constant. We never change that. Now we pull one of our levers, volume. We pull it only a small bit, and until we get progress, and then we continue on as we were, and we don't use it all up at once. We don't waste it. We keep as much of the resource as we can. We pull as much as we need into the program until progress happens again, and thus growth starts happening again. So something that's extra on my philosophy related to volume is that a lot of people probably don't consider is hitting assigning volume to what you care about. I'm not in this to become like a competitive bodybuilder, so I don't really like those standards are not something I aspire to. They're not something that I my goal physique type thing is. For me, like point out some specific muscle groups, like my forearms and my neck. I want to grow these muscles, whereas like a competitive bodybuilder wouldn't really, they're not really judged on this, so it doesn't really matter to them. They wouldn't allocate the mental power or the volume in their program to it. Whereas in my case, I do. So going on what we discussed before, do as little as you can is the base principle, but really look at yourself and like have a bit of self-reflection on like what is your goal physique, and in that case, if you, I don't know, have a specific look that you want, make sure you assign the volume to those muscles accordingly, and not to like arbitrary standards of just grow every big muscle group if it's something you don't want. Me, for example, I don't, as I said, I don't like the sort of standard look of like competitive bodybuilders, and specifically that I don't like the X-frame look. I prefer the more of a like V-frame silver era look. Mainly this is, I don't want like massively wide quads. I want to like, yeah, developed quads, but I don't want like a massive X-frame. So in that case, that denotes that like I don't want to put as much volume towards legs, and I don't want to put as much volume to any exercises that are going to grow the sweep or width of my quads. Obviously this has a genetic component, but like using certain exercises like say a leg extension, which targets mainly the rectus femoris, will keep and not as much the outside of the quad, plays more into this, and so that just means I denote more volume to this because it's what I want my quads to look like, and it plays into what I want to actually grow and progress. Just overall, prioritize what you care about is the ultimate idea, with the base layer of doing as little as possible to progress in what you want to progress in. If you absolutely don't care about a certain muscle group, that's up to you. You don't have to like, it's a meme not doing leg day, but like if you absolutely do not want to train legs, you don't have to. I would say maybe it's good to train some legs, but like if you absolutely do not want to, that's fine. You are the master here of this ship. You get to steer it, and you get to set this up in whatever way you want to. So that's been my thoughts and like philosophy on what way you should set your volume in your programs. I've covered intensity and volume of the three big pillars that I just discussed: volume, frequency, and intensity. My next video is going to be on frequency, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that.